Tired of making poor DFS decisions, wishing your life was better, happier, actually had a clue as to what you were doing? We can help you with about 50% of that.
Yeah, welcome to The Sweat. We hail from DraftKings. He's Emerson, I'm Jessie. And tonight we have fantasy experts here to help you build successful hockey lineups, golf lineups, and the latest on the NFL free agency front.
All right, but we're going to start with a 7-game slate in the association. Say hello to our NBA panel, DK Live's Julian Edlow, and from the New York Daily News, my man, Karn Phillips. And it's NBA hot or not, gentlemen. So will the following players be hot, exceeding expectations, or not?
Lou Williams has been scoring fantasy points in bunches lately, so will he continue to be hot against the Blazers? Did you like that?
Yeah, girl.
Making flames show up on your DraftKings app or not and give you a
Ew.
big snowflake, Karn.
Gross.
I'm going muy caliente.
Ooh.
He just set history as the all-time bench scorer in league history. And, when you think about it, I didn't even know that was like a real stat. So I was like, oh, yeah, that would make sense to somebody to track that. He's also leading that team in scoring. So why not? Like, they're battling for a better playoff position. Lou Williams has been a bucket getter since he was at South Gwinnett High School. So why wouldn't he just keep being hot? Because that's what he's been his whole life.
Jules, do you agree? You think this guy's going to keep being hot?
Well, he hasn't been in this matchup against the Blazers this season, averages only 21 DraftKings points per game. But this team is much different as it stands now than when Tobias Harris was on the team. So he's a little more expensive than I would like to pay. But yes, I do think Lou Williams stays hot because he's just been so good lately. He shot 27 for 44 from the field in his last 2 games. Last night, even though he's on the second leg of a back-to-back tonight, he only played 23 minutes against the Celtics and scored 34 real points in that span, 46 DraftKings points. So averaging over 55 DraftKings points in his last 2 games. He hasn't even played that many minutes. This is a slate with a lot of potential blowouts, and this may be a closer game against Portland. I think they'll need Lou Williams scoring, and I think he stays hot.
So far in March, Rajon Rondo has delivered a 60 DK point performance, but he's got a 19-point night in there as well. So which Rondo shows up tonight against the Bulls? The hot one or the not one? Julian?
I'm going to say the not one, and it's always tough going against Rondo in a revenge-type game because this is a player that seems to step his game up when it's national TV, when it's an opponent that's gotten rid of him in the past. So there is a narrative there for Rondo to have a good game, but I just don't trust the Lakers right now. They're in such a spiral. The Lakers are tanking. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Mo Wagner is playing huge minutes for them now. LeBron's minutes are cut back. Ingram's done for the year. Kuzma is coming back. There's some usage that can be taken away from Rondo. I like the narrative. I know from covering Rondo for a few years in Boston, he's the type of guy that wants to play well in this game, but I just can't do anything pro-Lakers right now.
Yes, national television Rondo is a real thing. Karn, will the hot national television Rondo show up tonight?
Yes, for the pure pettiness of it all. Like, he had a dysfunctional time when he was in Chicago. So you give that guy extra motivation to go against a team he didn't like. And then let's think about something Julian said. Like, Mo Wagner starting for the Lakers. Like, who else is going to play? Like, Byron Scott starting at the 2 tonight. Like, they need so much help that who else is going to shoot the ball? Like, someone has to put the ball in the basket. Somebody has to get assists. Someone has to get rebounds. These are professional basketball players. And when you look at the Lakers roster and who's available to actually play tonight, a lot of that's going to fall on Rajon Rondo since he's going to have the ball in his hands. And when you add in the revenge factor, do I think Rajon Rondo was a hot person? No, but tonight, yeah, I definitely think he's going to be real, real hot.
Hey, Karn, let me ask you.
Hot sauce hot.
Ooh.
Hot sauce, like, are we talking like sriracha hot here?
Sriracha's not hot.
Sriracha is
We're talking about
definitely
like maybe like a little bit past sriracha, but right below ghost pepper hot. Because like,
ghost
just look at that roster. Like, where else is it going to come from?
I would just like to point out to both of you that the spectrum between sriracha and ghost peppers is like obscene.
It's a universe.
Anyway.
Hey, Karn, is LeBron James too expensive to pay up for tonight? Real quick, just to follow up since we're on the Lakers train here. 11,200.
You got the minutes restriction, and just with all the drama that's going on, while a low minutes LeBron could still wind up being a triple-double with like 10, 11, and 10. You think about everything that's going on and their motivation. and I'm pretty sure he's dinged up. It just never tells us like he usually is every season. I would just stay away from everybody on the Lakers if I could, just like Julian said. But if I got to pick, and with this question I was asked tonight, I would take Rondo being hot, but the Lakers are a mess.
Julian, I know we'll talk about it tonight on our MSG show as well, but is LeBron too expensive to pay out for?
Way too expensive. And that triple-double that he had against the Celtics is complete fool's gold that's going to trap people into continuing to roster him. He's $11,200. He had a 64 DK point triple-double in 28 minutes against the Celtics. That's great if you rostered him that night, but if he continues, and he is going to continue to play 28 to 30 minutes, he's not going to do that every night. As we talked about, and one of our DK Live analysts, Greg Ehrenberg, pointed out on our MSG show, if you go by LeBron's actual DK points per minute, playing around 28 minutes a game puts him in like the 40 to 45 DK point territory, and that's not even 4 times value. So the numbers look great from the Celtics game, but as he continues to see this minutes restriction, there's going to be nights where LeBron puts up way fewer DK points than we're accustomed to, and I don't want any piece of falling into that trap.
All right, guys, Elfrid Payton is coming off a 51 DK point performance. Think he's going to continue that hotness against the Bucks, Karin?
I don't, just for the simple fact that it was against the Hawks. You know, like I had 34 and 12 last time I played the Hawks. But then you turn around and you're getting ready to play the team that has the best record in the league. And they're like fighting teams off in the East to try to get that 1 seed, because this is going to be really, really important for the Bucks to hold on to home court advantage throughout the playoffs if they want to make a deep run and make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Also, when has Elfrid Payton really been the guy for us to believe in long term? Just to be like, yes, I trust that guy. Let me spend my money on him. So I'm going to say no.
I mean, Jules, Drew Holiday is slated to miss another couple games. You think they're going to keep relying on Payton? Maybe he'll get more minutes here.
Well, I mean, they have to rely on him. So if this is a close game, Elfrid Payton would have to be hot. But I'm going to have to say not here because they're double-digit underdogs at home. So the Bucks are in a really good spot. They're coming off of a loss, and when they come off of a loss, they're one of the best teams in the NBA against the spread on the road to begin with. But coming off of a loss, they've been even better. So the numbers from the season tell us that the Bucks are going to come out with motivation in this game and dominate the game. So that makes me want to stay away from Elfrid Payton. Look, that game, he had a triple-double against the Hawks. They also lost by 10, I think. So it's really hard to see them being competitive against Milwaukee. I will say I'll stay away from Elfrid Payton, but he would be a nice tournament play because people are going to be really afraid of him. And if this game does wind up staying close, there's no other option with Drew Holiday out. So he's going to see minutes like he did in that Atlanta game and would have likely a similar game if the score were to be close.
And if I remember correctly, I think the Bucks are like the only team in the league this season that haven't lost back-to-back games. But I was at a wedding this past weekend, and I didn't watch much basketball, so I could be wrong, and I might have just pulled a Stephen A. Smith.
That's totally that's fair.
That's
fair,
a legit excuse.
Standard
though.
Wedding weekend.
Live your life.
Live
You
your
go to a
life.
wedding.
You don't do it.
Jules, Jamal Murray putting up a measly 16 fantasy points against the Warriors on Friday. His average this season is 33 per night. Before that 16-point game, had 7 straight of at least 30 DK fantasy points. So at $6,300, do you think he's going to be hot or not against Minnesota?
I think he's going to be hotter than 16 DK points. I don't know if he's necessarily going to fill it up. I guess I'll take the easy route out and say that he's like fairly priced. I think he's going to bounce back to his average. Things are looking better than earlier. Earlier in the day, Karl Anthony Towns, who has been out, was questionable and then upgraded to probable, and it looks like he's going to play. So that makes this game much more competitive than it was originally slated to be, which should mean that Murray is needed in this game, whereas this could have been a situation to begin with Andrew Wiggins questionable, Jeff Teague questionable, Derrick Rose questionable, where Murray could have just gone out there, gotten his, and not even had to play the fourth quarter. So if Towns plays, this can be a competitive game, and Minnesota winds up with like none of their point guards. This is a spot where Murray has the potential to go off, but I think he's fairly priced. This is a game that Denver should win fairly easily. So I'll put him right around those 35 DK points that he should be scoring.
Karin, does Murray go off tonight?
No, and I'm like Julian. You think about all these variables that surround this game and him having the 16 DK points last time. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a raging inferno, but I don't think he's going to be bad as he was last time out. So can I go with like a lukewarm on Jamal Murray, a room temperature.
Yeah,
Like I
no.
think he's going to be good and better than he was, but I don't think he's going to go NBA Jam, chow chow baby on us or anything like that.
Okay, all right. Well, next time we see you guys, we're going to chase your fade some of tonight's game spreads. But first, the legendary Chris Wasel returns to help us decide who to pay up for on this 8-game NHL slate.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Josh Gordon looks like he'll be extending his stay in Foxborough into next year. The Patriots have reportedly placed an original round tender on the restricted free agent, which essentially means that if a team tries to sign him to a deal, they'd also have to surrender a draft pick to New England. Given that Gordon is currently suspended indefinitely by the NFL for violating the substance abuse policy, it seems rather unlikely a team will be willing to extend themselves that far for Gordon, and he knows it. The talented pass catcher took to social media thanking the Patriots, seemingly as a sign that he'll be back in 2019. Gordon and the NFLPA are set to begin the reinstatement process in May, and Commissioner Roger Goodell didn't rule out the possibility of allowing him back when he was at the Super Bowl. The wideout was traded to the Pats early last season in a deal with the Browns and quickly built up solid chemistry with Tom Brady. In 11 games played for New England, Gordon caught 68 passes for 720 yards and 3 touchdowns.
The NFL's free agent market. Here, Bryce Harper, he's a Philly. He's also actively campaigned for Mike Trout to join him when he's a free agent in 2021. Philadelphia has to say, oh, don't do that. But you know the front office loves it because it can't do that. The league office has gotten involved saying, stop, so he'll stop. But is this really that big a deal?
No, it's stupid. I mean, it's silly. Listen, we all know that no one has to recruit Trout to Philadelphia. Trout has dreamt about playing in Philadelphia. We all know that. We all know he'd love to play in Philadelphia. Nobody has to recruit Mike Trout to go home. I mean, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But the question is, what will happen? I think the more logical thing is if they ever decide, you know what, Trout's going to leave us, I think Harper could wind up going the other way in that in a trade. I mean, so he could be part of it down the road. I think that could be possible. I've said that the day he signed there. I don't know if Trout wants to play in Philly or try to win in California. I don't know. He has said conflicting things at different times. We know what kind of fan he is there, but it's going to be interesting. I made a comment that if he were on the open market right now, even in a time where people are putting their hands in their pockets, he would get, I think, between $400 and $450 million in his total contract. That's how much better he is than everybody else. Everybody would be in on Trout. Everybody. I mean, teams that have never bid would be in on Trout because it's a once-of-a-lifetime thing. And it would be remarkable what would happen if he was ever a free agent and actually was open to bidding. That wouldn't be the case because we all know where he wants to play. I don't know what his future is. I always feel that if a guy really wants to go somewhere, he'll eventually get there. And I think that's the case with Trout. If he really wants to get there, eventually he'll get there. Probably won't be for a while, but eventually he'll get there.
Well, and the guy's got Philadelphia Eagles season tickets that he makes.
Oh yeah,
that's
his thing. He wants to. I mean, he doesn't want to play anywhere else. I mean, that's where he wants to play. Now, let me say this, Adam, because it's interesting. Baseball has done the most awful, horrific job in promoting this player.
Oh, yeah.
He is one of the greatest players in the history of baseball at his stage of his career. He is that good. He's a real, they compare a lot of people to Mickey Mantle, which is silly. This guy actually can be compared to Mickey Mantle. He's actually that good. And baseball, and I understand he also doesn't run for the limelight, and I know he's on a bad team and he's on the West Coast, which is very, very tough territory for baseball. Baseball is still a game that you get promoted out of the east end and the middle of the country. If you're not in New York or in Boston or in Chicago or St. Louis, it's very difficult to get noticed in baseball the way you would in those cities because those cities care so much and you're going to get so much attention in the Eastern time zone. If he was in a big marketplace, I think people would understand just how good he is. I don't think people see him enough. They don't see his games. They don't see his box scores. They don't see him, the times with anywhere near the amount of time they would if he was ever in the Eastern time zone. So it would actually be very good for baseball, but they need to do a better job. Give the NBA credit for that. I know everyone says, the NBA allows their players to run amok and they let their big players run the game. All true, all fair criticism, but they also do an unbelievable job of promoting their big stars. Their big stars are all known by their first name. And if you bring a kid in who's 14, who's a sports fan, he will miss on a couple of top 10 baseball players. He will not miss on one NBA player. He'll hit 10 for 10.
Back by popular demand, it's the Sweat, and our next guest is no stranger to the program. It's the fabled Chris Wasel of Awesemo.com.
Okay, I'm told you know a thing or two about hockey, so let's dive into this 8-game slate with some price check. Mark Scheifele's been pretty cold lately, just 7 real points in his last 10 real games. So what makes you think he's worth the $7,000 price tag against the Sharks?
Simple reasons here. One, San Jose. Hey, we played last night. We might be a little bit tired. We still don't have Erik Karlsson, and oh my God, they have to actually choose a goalie. Either Aaron Dell, who's been horrendous lately with below a .900 save percentage, or coming back with Martin Jones, who has an .885 save percentage on the back end of back-to-backs. You hope that this is kind of a Scheifele breakout. He has been struggling, and it's true for both of you that he also has been struggling with getting his shots on net. So if there's a time for him to break out, it may be tonight.
All right, between the pipes, Ben Bishop's riding a 3-game win streak, which includes 2 shutouts. So is he a steal for 7,800 against the Sabres?
He's actually not quite a steal. He's about priced correctly. As hard as it is to believe, I know 2 shutouts, been incredibly hot. Beat me in many season-long leagues last week, and it hurt. But that being said, the problem is this. Bishop is not quite as good on the road, and you have to balance that with the fact that Buffalo does not have Jack Eichel due to suspension. I mean, Casey Middlestat is your first-line center for Buffalo right now. That's a problem. So when you balance those things out, normally overpriced, playing Buffalo, just about correctly priced.
Okay, Brad Marchand has 12 real points in his last 10 real games, but in your humble opinion, does he deserve the 7-4 salary against the Blue Jackets?
He absolutely deserves it, given again the circumstances. Marchand is a point-per-game player against Columbus. I can remember a couple seasons ago, Marchand completely running roughshod over this very same Columbus team to the tune of 5 points in about 40 minutes. You look at the price, you look at the streak, the bit of a streak that he's on, but you look at his scoring chances. His scoring chances are a good 20% higher than they had been before the streak. Another thing too, you have to consider. Who will Columbus try and start tonight? What's their defense going to look like? Is the pressure getting to them? These are all things Boston does not have to worry about, and especially Brad Marchand, who couldn't care less, and that makes it a good matchup.
Okay, Matthew Tkachuk had a huge game on Sunday, recording a hat trick and an assist against the Knights, which, if my math is correct, that's like 14 DK points. So how good of a play is he for 6,100 against the Devils?
He is a rather solid play. What you can do tonight is a little bit unique. Don't worry about crossing the streams tonight. It's okay. The Devils are like a minus $1 underdog here. The only risk may be that Mackenzie Blackwood makes about 40 to 45 saves. That being said, you're going to get opportunities. You can sit there, take Tkachuk. You could even mix it, sprinkle in a little Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Gaudreau is very low priced compared to what he normally should be because of his recent point slump. But he had 9 shots on goal in his last game. So if you combine the 2 of these guys, that's a heck of a 1-2 combination. You can do that. You can mix and match a little. You can take Gaudreau, mix in with a little bit of Tkachuk, and toss in a Frolik who is around 38. I mean, he's almost a value play at this point, and go stack that way. Whatever you do, don't play Sean Monahan, at least, unless you're willing to take the risk.
Okay, Chris, brace yourself here for this one. The last question we have for you tonight. Who was your slate-approved pick, your roster lock for this entire slate? Yeah,
Wow.
think about it.
You know
Think
what?
about it. Don't screw this up.
Think about this one.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
It's Johnny Gaudreau. Look,
Whoa.
you had the location
Johnny
narrative.
Hockey.
You had the fact that he hasn't scored a goal in at least a half dozen games now. The points haven't quite come, but the chances are there. You have to figure that he turns it on tonight again. Look, it makes a ton of sense against a team that gives up 3.84 goals a game on the road, allows 36 plus shots per 60 on the road. Those are nasty numbers. I mean, those are basically early season Anaheim Ducks like, and that's a good sign for Calgary, even though it might be a closer game than people expect.
Excellent work as always, Chris. Thank you so much for the help. But now we got to turn our attention to
The pigskin.
Yeah, we do.
The NFL's free agent market, it doesn't even officially open until tomorrow. However, there's already been plenty of activity during the so-called legal tampering period.
Legal tamper. So we're bringing in DK Live's Steve Buchanan and Jeff Ulrich to help us sort through it all on this Tuesday edition of NFL Spin Move. Starting with the Bills, they made an upgrade to their offense that's been lacking proven receivers, agreeing to contracts with wideouts Cole Beasley and John Brown. Steve, are these two enough to make Josh Allen a good fantasy quarterback this season?
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't add Brown and Beasley and go, boy, Josh Allen's on a whole nother level now. I mean, man, this is really going to put him in a whole different realm of quarterbacks here. But I will say it does make him a better team. I mean, Beasley's going to be a reliable receiver for them out of the slot. Brown brings a second deep threat to accompany Robert Foster. But Allen is kind of similar to Lamar Jackson. This is going to be a run-first team. Allen isn't the most accurate passer either, kind of like how Lamar Jackson was. And honestly, at this point, it kind of feels like they have a bit of a logjam now at receiver. Don't forget, Zay Jones is still a part of this team, at least as of right now. And at the end of the day, Allen has a good set of receivers now, and, he should definitely improve with the core that's around him now. But, let's not put him on a pedestal just yet here. Okay, it's Cole Beasley and John Brown. All right, let's relax.
Jeff, would you say that Bills Mafia might be getting pumped up about this news?
I mean, if they are, they need to drink more. I don't know. No, I mean, look, if I'm a Josh Allen fantasy owner, I'm pretty happy because it means he's going to be running the ball a lot next year. I mean, why would you spend, just from an organizational standpoint, this makes no sense, $16 million on Cole Beasley and John Brown? It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, John Brown is a nice deep threat, but you have Robert Foster already there and Zay Jones, who kind of maybe is already better than John Brown. Like, John Brown is kind of a deep threat. He's more of a number 2 and number 3 wide receiver. Why are you spending this much money on him? I don't get it. Cole Beasley might work out a little bit. We'll see. But, I mean, look, it's not like Josh Allen is someone who's worked the slot a lot last year because he's not that accurate a quarterback. So I think from a Bills standpoint, I'd be pretty mad about them spending this much money. It certainly doesn't hurt Josh Allen to have some more depth at wide receiver, though. I'll say that much.
It appears on Twitter you probably would have rather preferred the Bills sign Tyrell Williams.
Yes. An actual guy who could profile as a number 1 receiver. Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay, well, the Saints have agreed to a deal with Latavius Murray, which likely means Mark Ingram will be signing elsewhere. Jeffrey, do you think the Saints will be better off with Ingram gone?
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be better off, but I don't think they're going to be worse off. I mean, obviously, you look at the career numbers. Mark Ingram has a better yards per carry, but let's look at Latavius Murray's career. He's played with crappy teams. He's played with a really bad Oakland Raiders team, and then he played behind a really bad offensive line with the Minnesota Vikings for 2 years. So he performed pretty well in those spots. He's not a bad running back at all. I think, quite frankly, it's you're not losing much, and in some ways you might even be gaining a little bit here because Mark Ingram, to me, didn't really look that good in spots last year. I don't know. Maybe it's just he had trouble coming into the season late. But I don't think this is a bad move by the Saints. They might have overpaid a bit. I don't know about 4 years to running back. But, again, it's not all guaranteed. So I don't think they lose anything. I think it's fine if they couldn't get it done with Ingram. I think Latavius Murray is perfect villain.
Steve, let me rework my question here. Do you think the Saints would have been better off with Ingram?
I mean, honestly, I feel like it's just kind of swapping player A for player B. I don't feel like Murray's going to give them that much of a difference than what they had with Ingram last year. I mean, Murray's probably going to take the early down work. He's probably going to be the guy at the goal line. And really, that's essentially what Ingram did. I mean, he will benefit from a much better offensive line than the Vikings were. So if there's definitely some upside there with Murray, this is definitely the team to go to, because that Vikings offensive line was just absolutely atrocious last season. But, the thing with Ingram is I think he just wants to be the number one guy in an offense. So even if they wanted to have Ingram, I just don't think that was going to be the landing spot for him, because I think he wants to move on and go to a team and be that guy in the offense. When you have Alvin Kamara on your team, you're not going to be that guy there. So at the end of the day, I feel like they have kind of the same player, so I don't think it really makes that much of a difference. But for Ingram, at least, I think he just wanted to move on and take a shot at another team.
All right, in other Saints news, backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater is expected to re-sign with the team. That's according to NFL Network. So with Drew Brees nearing the end of his career, what are the chances New Orleans is looking at Bridgewater as the future of this team, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense because, look, he could have gone to another team and essentially fought for a starting job. I mean, granted, it was the Dolphins and the Jaguars, so I get it. You don't really want to move anywhere.
Easy.
Hey, man, the truth is truth, all right? You got balls, calm down.
Okay.
And look, but the Saints are looking to win right now, and they're set up to be competitive for years to come now. I mean, depending on how long Breeze is active for the next few years, Bridgewater could essentially step right into an elite offense when Breeze does end up retiring. And then if you're going to learn from somebody, who better than Drew Brees? So I feel like this is just a perfect scenario for him, kind of like with Garoppolo and Brady. Garoppolo continued to stick around. Granted, they ended up shipping him off, but, they're kind of grooming him for that team. So I think it makes total sense. You don't want to go out to the Dolphins and to that massacre of a team they have out there. So, yeah, I think it makes sense to go back to the Saints here.
Jeff, is Bridgewater the future in NOLA?
I mean, they're at least considering Teddy Bridgewater as an option if Drew Brees decides to move on in the next year or two, right? I mean, obviously Teddy Bridgewater thinks that too, because like Steve said, reports are that he turned down more money to go to Miami, right? Or that's what a few people have reported. So I think this makes sense. I mean, I think Teddy Bridgewater is fully capable of running an offense like New Orleans, which is kind of run focused. They still would bring in Taysom Hill, who's going to be back next year, and it'll probably be lingering around too. But Teddy Bridgewater is a little bit underrated. Obviously, still come back from the injury. We don't really know exactly how that has gone because we haven't seen him in a full-time role yet. But, if you go back before, he was a fully capable quarterback, was a pretty highly rated prospect. I mean, I think some people forget. I think he's fully capable, and I think the Saints definitely have him at least in mind as a stopgap solution for when Drew Brees retires.
All right, wonderful job, guys. We're heading back to the hardwood to look at some of tonight's game spreads after this.
What's going on? I'm Brendan Glasheen in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The New York Yankees tattooed the baseball in 2018. They launched a new MLB record, 267 home runs. I guess that's why they call them the Bronx Bombers. Can the Yanks surpass 267 in 2019? Aaron Judge thinks so. Earlier in the spring, Judge said, "You get this whole team healthy, we're going to crush the record that we set last year." To his point, 12 Yankees recorded double-digit homers last year. Health, of course, crucial to getting anywhere close to 300 dingers, but consider this. Last season, Judge, Gary Sanchez, Didi Gregorius were hurt. Giancarlo Stanton dealt with the New York spotlight for the first time, and Luke Voit produced significantly after joining the team in August. Fangraphs projects Stanton to pace baseball with 44 home runs. In fact, it also predicts Stanton, Judge, and Sanchez to combine for 100 plus. 1 through 9, there's going to be plenty of value for your daily lineups this summer. We may have a tough time convincing ourselves to fade Yankees.
Back here on the Sweat inside the soon-to-be former DraftKings TV studios.
Aww.
Looking forward to building a brand new one at our state-of-the-art offices. We're heading back to the NBA to peep some of tonight's game spreads right now, though.
Which is why Julian and Karin are here. We need you guys to chase or fade the following. So the Lakers have lost 5 straight games. 5. But they're still favored by 1 point tonight in Chicago. So chase or fade the Lakers end their losing streak and cover against the Bulls, Jules.
I'm fading anything Lakers related. I think the Bulls get this game straight up. The Lakers have been terrible at home. I don't know anything that should make me feel like they'll be any better on the road. I understand that this is, Zach LaVine out. He's been a guy that's really helped the Bulls in the games they've won this year. That makes this a lot more difficult, but in the end, I can't take the Lakers. LeBron, I'm sure, will be a handful for the 28 minutes that he's out there, but the Bulls they've gotten some sneaky good wins. Even since the All-Star break, I think that they're going to be able to pull this game out at home. The Lakers are trying to play, guys like Mo Wagner all these minutes. Even with Kuzma back, I like the Bulls in this spot. Otto Porter's been really good lately. They have enough players to get this done.
Karin, are they finally going to end their losing streak and cover in Chicago?
No, like the Lakers are dead. Like I have more faith in Theon Greyjoy surviving in the last season of Game of Thrones than I do in the Lakers winning another game this season.
He will.
Like,
I believe he will survive. I believe he will.
All right.
survive.
Well, then I'll take your lunch money. Go ahead, put it on the table. But like we listed the guys who are out for Chicago, but like let's think about everything this team has gone through. The rumors about the coach and who they're going to sign and who should have got traded and who's hurt and these really serious possible injuries that could be happening. And if Magic doesn't get some free agents, he's going to leave and all of this. It's a mess. Like, why would you pick these guys? Because they've shown after the trade deadline that no one really stepped up besides Ingram and LeBron. And one of those guys is out for the season and the other is on the minutes restriction. So stay away from the Lakers.
Everyone is going to die in season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Thank you,
okay,
everybody.
Everyone. I take back what I said.
Yeah, okay, fine.
All right, well, at this point, any win by the Cavs is surprising, but last night beating the Raptors by 25 was downright mind-boggling. Still underdogs tonight in Philly. Karin, Chaser Fade Cleveland covers the 15-point spread.
I'm fading the Cavs just because I don't think Lightning's going to strike in the bottle twice for them. But last night win was also very telling for me because that was one of the big reasons why I will never trust the Toronto Raptors, because as good as they looked all year, that was one of those games where you're supposed to like stump your opponent out and put your foot on his neck to let the league know that, hey, we're not the same Raptors we used to be. And you got blew out by the Cavs. And then there was this nice little fight that we got to watch that reminded us of 80s basketball. But no, I'm fading this because they're not going to do it twice. The Philly has too many petty guys on their roster to let a 2-game winning streak by the Cavs happen on their watch.
Okay, Jules, what do you say on this?
Yeah, so the Cavs actually beat the Sixers back in November. Then Philly avenged that by beating Cleveland by 23 in December the next time around. Look, the Cavs don't have to beat the Sixers here. They just have to cover 15 points. And I think this spread has actually moved to 15.5. So you get the hook there as well. Cleveland's playing really well, or as well as they can for this Cavs team. And one of those petty guys that Karin mentioned, Jimmy Butler, he's not playing in this game. So I will take Cleveland plus 15, plus 15.5. And, maybe this is a 8, 9, 10-point loss. I think it can be a game somewhere along those lines. So this isn't something I would be confident in. This isn't my game of the night or anything, but I'll take the Cavs in this spot.
All right, the Spurs are 5-point favorites on the road tonight against the Mavs. So chase or fade San Antonio covers, Julian.
Yeah, so Luka Doncic was questionable coming into this slate, and he has actually since been ruled in the last 10 or so minutes. So getting Luka out there, the Spurs have beaten the Mavericks by 4 points the last time they played and 5 points in overtime earlier in the season. So all the games between these teams have been close. And now we have, Doncic playing some of his best basketball of the season at home. I think the Mavericks can cover this spread with Doncic in, of course.
Karin, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to chase it too. Just with the Doncic news. It's probably going to be a really close game, like Julian said, especially when you think about the Spurs jockeying for better playoff position, which is kind of a chess game at best because the West, as we know, the playoffs 1 through 8 in that conference is just bloody. It's like the Red Wedding all around. I'm going to give you Game of Thrones references all day because I just read a story earlier and I might cite it all over again.
I know, April 14th.
I'm rewatching it right now. I'm right about there actually. Red Wedding time is coming up.
Excellent. Yeah, get ready to have your mind blown again. Actually, everybody cares about Game of Thrones.
That was a poor choice. Poor choice that you're using back there. You hate to see it.
Hey, real quick, Jules, since we were just talking about Doncic here, would you play Luka tonight 100%? Matthew Blow would like to know on Facebook.
100%. Maybe not if you're making multiple lineups. You don't have to have 100% exposure to him. But yeah, Doncic should be a safe play. He's averaged just under 50 DK points against the Spurs in the 2 games earlier this season.
All right, moving on. The Pelicans are 10.5-point underdogs at home against the Bucks. So chase or fade, the Pelicans cover. Karin.
I think it might be worse than that. I'm going to fade them. Like what the Pelicans, if the Lakers are the most pathetic team in NBA right now, then the Pelicans have to be second. They are, my Lord. I'm supposed to be the journalist. I'm supposed to be good with words, and I don't have a word that describes how bad it's been in New Orleans. They've got some guys on that roster I really like and would like to see them put up some points and get some minutes at the end of this season, but I'm staying away from everything that's New Orleans and LA.
All right, Jules, what do you think? Pelicans cover, yay or nay, or chase or fade, rather?
Fade. Look, the Bucks are the best team against the spread in the NBA. They are the second best team on the road against the spread in the NBA. And most importantly, coming off of a loss, they are an NBA best 13-3 against the spread. They always avenge losses, come out, get a big win the next game, and they beat the Pelicans, by 8 earlier this season. That was back in December, so the Pelicans were a more competitive team at that time. Their season was still alive. I think they can definitely cover 10.5 in this game.
Hey, real quick, guys, we have a question. How about Aldridge? David Stubbs would like to know. Karin, you playing him tonight?
Yeah, definitely. Like Spurs, they need to get all the wins they can to get better position in the West, even though it might not help them with the way that those standings are loaded.
Jules, where do you sit on this guy?
I think he's a fine play. I don't think you need to reach on him. He averages just under 28 DraftKings points in those 2 games against Dallas earlier this season, and we know both of those games were competitive, and one of them went to overtime. So this is kind of a bad matchup for him. I would probably lean towards some other plays.
Okay.
Alrighty, guys, we're going to get your slate-approved picks coming up, plus Tears of Joy, but Reed T. Fowler joins the show next for a very special segment, which actually bears his name.
But first, let's get your golf loins pumping with some tour junkies.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Ownership is what we're preaching right now, heading You got to have guys that are low owned. Phil, having not played here a lot, or not played well, really in his history here at Sawgrass, basically says he doesn't feel like he has to play. He's going to kind of give it a look. We still don't know for sure if he's actually going to play as of this recording on Monday night. So I don't want to spend too much time on him, but tell me why you want to play Phil in the event he says, you know what? I've sucked here in the past, but I think I'm going to give it a shot coming off of my up and down performance at Bay Hill where I missed the cut and I trunk slammed. I'm going to give it a shot. Tell me why you like him outside of the obvious ownership leverage.
Well, last time he missed a cut, what happened the next week?
I don't know.
He won. He won the AT&T Pebble Beach the week after he won or missed the cut. So, you know what? I'm not putting a whole lot in that. As a matter of fact, that's only going to probably give me a little bit lower ownership.
Except for the fact that Pebble Beach is a course that he has dominated in years past. He loves Pebble. So coming off a missed cut makes a lot of sense. Don't know that that's really a fact here for Sawgrass.
Well, here's the thing. Well, another reason I'll give you is that, we're seeing some Mickelson a little more active on social media these days. He started his Instagram page. He's got his Twitter page. And you know what? He talked about how he likes the course this week as far as the rough is concerned because it's down, because there's not a whole lot of rough. And you know what? We all know Mickelson can be erratic off of the tee, but when he's liking a course like he seems to like it this week, it's a totally different course. I talked about that. This is a overseeded course. The greens are different. Everything else is different. This is a course he can play well on as opposed to when it was the typical course in May. So I like some Phil this week. I think that,
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Reed the Green has returned to the sweat.
That's so horrifying. What a good adjective to describe this.
Look, he's got his own animation. Wow, he looks so much more handsome.
Reed, this is horrifying. So Reed Fowler's here, and so is everyone's favorite friendly Canadian. You're not looking very friendly right now, Jeff. Jeff Ulrich. Yeah, you're muted. apparently, because
Go
you
ahead.
didn't look friendly.
That's the meaning of this segment. Is that
Reed
Jeff
got
just
his own
muted?
graphic before me. Really?
Yeah.
I'll
North remembers.
I'll
The
talk
North
to
remembers.
people. I'll talk
Wow,
to
the
people. I
North
know 'em.
remembers, and winter is coming. So, Reed, this segment is named after you. Try not to screw this up because Jeff he'll be
Well,
all
that's
over
impossible,
that.
Jesse, but let's go.
Okay. All right, so you give us a few names you like for the players, and then we'll have Jeff chime in to tell us if you're spot on or if you're an idiot. And I have a feeling he's going to go with idiot.
All right, up first, Justin Thomas. Why do you like him, Reed?
Yeah, I was just going to choose Louis Oosthuizen 4 times, and Jeff couldn't disagree with me. But no, I like Justin Thomas. Look, where we see Justin Thomas usually, right, is near the top, and rightfully so. He's one of the best players in the game. He's been gaining strokes through approach since WGC of last year. And so when we see Justin Thomas, when we see the players, this is what we want to see, is around the green game. He's a rare case of a guy who has distance, who's really elite with his irons and has touch around the greens. And when he gets his putter going, obviously we see what he can do when it comes to these difficult fields. Now, he might have a lingering injury with that wrist, and so we don't necessarily know yet. He's not my favorite from the top, but at 11-1 with Justin Thomas, potentially coming in under own with a lot of buzz around Tiger and some of these guys at the top, I really like him this week.
Jeff, he's on to something here. Thomas 4 for 4 at TPC, T3 in 2016, T11 2018. Can't really hate on him too much, can you?
Well, look, I mean, Reed started off here with a chalky, safe pick. No shock there. I mean, I can't really hate on Justin Thomas. Like you said, his worst finish is a T30 all year, and it was at the Honda Classic. So, no, Justin Thomas is fine. And he should be lesser owned this week than guys like Dustin Johnson and Rory McIlroy, right? So that's why you're going to pick Justin Thomas. Probably not a cash game play just because, there's just a couple different players in that price range in a little bit better form. But definitely in play for GPPs. He's done well in the state of Florida, obviously has a Honda Classic win. I don't mind this play. Like I said, probably going to be lower owned than some of the other studs. So.
Okay.
All right, next on your list here is Tyrell Hatton. So please take it away, Reed.
Yeah, I thought we were just going to end that segment there where Jeff agrees with me. But let's go with Tyrell Hatton here. At 7,300, we see him at this price range a lot in these tournaments, a lot of these European guys coming over. And Eisenbahn made a good point yesterday in terms of these European players having to come to the players a little bit early. But this guy Hatton has been playing quite a bit in the States here. And this is a tournament that has launched some of these guys' careers. You see Martin Kaymer, Ricky Fowler with his first big win here, Siwoo Kim, Webb Simpson sort of, V2 of his career. We see what the players can do. And Hatton is on that second tier with the Cantleys and the Fleetwoods of players that have a lot of talent, are great around the green, especially a birdie or better gain. He's top 10 in the last 24 rounds, and he's gaining strokes through approach consecutively over the last 4 tournaments. He lost about 3 when we look at Mexico and back a little bit, but ever since then, he's been gaining strokes through approach. He's got to get his putter going a little bit, but Bermuda is his preferred surface. So at 7,300, I really like Hatton this week.
Jeff, have at him.
What didn't take long. I mean, Tyrell Hatton on a course like TPC Sawgrass, yeah, that's a good mix. Not.
Is that your best argument?
Not.
Look, I mean, you saw what happened last week. It was all over social media. Hit the shot, asked his caddy how bad it was. He's going to have a blow up. Eventually, one of those shots, going to get to 17, hit it in the water. 7,300, you just play a nice, steady guy who's trending like Charles Howell III. You don't go for this crazy Englishman like Tyrell Hatton.
Please.
Barely has any course history here, Reed. No, I don't like Tyrell Hatton. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm not sorry.
Byung Hun An, our graphics guru in the back. Billy, he loves him, and you do too? Question mark, Reed?
Yes, Emerson, exclamation point. $6,800 for a guy who's really elite with his irons. He's been gaining strokes through approach. 8th tee to green on Pete Dye courses. When you look at over the past 24 rounds, 2nd in strokes getting around the greens on Dye courses. Gaining approach through 9 of last 10 tournaments. Again, where we see him and where we see a lot of these guys, like a Keegan Bradley, like a Luke List, is that they can really ball strike like the best of them, but just cannot putt. Yes, that's going to be a key metric here, but like we always say, putting can switch. So at 6,800, you're not investing a ton. Benny Ann at 2 out of 20 lineups or 3 or 4 out of 20 lineups is not going to ruin you. So at 6,800, Benny Ann is trending. He's a guy that can really strike with the iron side. We saw it with Siwoo Kim. Granted, around the green game and putting with Siwoo Kim last year was really great, but when you look at Benny Ed, he's one of those guys that if that putting just switches a little bit, he can be one of the best.
So I butchered his name.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for correcting me. 80-1 odds, though, to hoist that brand spanking new 24-karat gold statue, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be taking the win odds. But look, I mean, Reed lucked out here. I have a soft spot in my heart for Byung-Hun, okay, Benny Yan. He's part of team. He's part of core Jeff. I mean, he's part of my core players here. I mean, I always support Benny Yan whenever he comes up. And at 6,800, look, he's striking it well. And I mean, his strokes gained around the green have actually improved this year. So I think he's got a fighting shot this week. He wouldn't be my first pick to take home the trophy or anything like this. But at 6,800 for DFS, I think it's someone you look close at this week. He's got a top finish at the Honda Classic, another Florida course, lots of water, lots of target golf there. So I like this pick this week. I think 6,800, again, it's far too cheap for a player with top 10 upside here because he really is striking it well enough to crack that top 10 this week.
All right, Reed, what are your thoughts on Hideki? He did miss the cut here last year.
Yeah, Hideki is one of those guys too that, I mean, we see him how many strokes he gains through approach week over week, but just can't putt. If you just look at his raw numbers, right, he's second in strokes gained ball striking, first in strokes gained approach, 12th in around the greens, but like 132nd in putting. So just something's not clicking for him. Obviously, the Bermuda grass is not his preferred surface. But again, when you get these extreme ball strikers and guys that can potentially break through with the players, like this tournament is extremely variant. We've seen guys, like Tim Clark win, Martin Keimer, guys that are long hitters. Sergio Garcia has done well here. Justin Rose, not necessarily, right? I mean, he's done well in other courses, but you get a guy like Hideki Matsuyama who's just hitting his iron so well, the putting, just like with Benny Yan, if you get that putting just to regress back a little bit to average, then he's someone that can really, at 8,300 too, if you're looking at him, especially with that missed cut last week, you're looking at a guy like Hideki that might come in with lower ownership. I don't think he will, but even then, I'll be riding Hideki until he wins because he's one of the best ball strikers in the game.
Jeffrey?
So it's not just that Hideki Matsuyama's worst surface is Bermuda. He's actually got the 7th worst variance between Bermuda and other surfaces, meaning he loses like the 7th most strokes on Bermuda over other surfaces. So if you're expecting his putter to just magically appear this week, I think you're in for a rude awakening. I can't argue with the ball striking because everything else is there, but for him to just go out there and win this golf tournament, I don't know. I mean, 8,300 is cheap enough that I can understand taking a shot with him, I guess, but he's not one of my top plays this week. I just don't think it's just too much of a turn of hat for him to all of a sudden get hot enough to win. I don't know. It's okay, I guess. It's an okay pick. It's not like
I almost wanted to go Tony Finau right above him, but
you
with
would
your
not.
boy Jackie.
You would not. Actually, you would.
Oh, I would.
No, you would. He's your Slate Approved pick every week, so no need to ever listen to his Slate Approved pick, people. Both of you, by the way, have written up phenomenal previews for the players, so I recommend to all of you watching, follow these guys on Twitter, read their work, and you can thank me later. Or Venmo me.
Okay, bye. The last block of the show is next, so stick around. It's NBA Tears of Joy.
We talked about Day, we talked about Tiger and those two injuries. $8,900. As of right now, I have Jordan Spieth projected at 3% ownership. Rick, can you stomach playing Jordan Spieth? Because I can't.
I've been basically going down on the Jordan Spieth ship for the last handful of weeks, and I said I'm going to be a week early rather than a week late. But I think I'll bet that this is not the week that that he goes out and wins this thing, and I'm just coming in early. It's just been so bad from a lot of angles. He doesn't have great course history here. The guys priced around him are, perceivably much better options. There's just like no storytelling or no narrative that I can get to for Spieth that makes me want to roster him. I guess outside of the fact that his name is Jordan Spieth, which I can't really bank on this week. So no, as someone who has been really sticking by him and waiting for that week to bounce back, it's he's probably not going to get my dollars this week.
So, Ben, Rick was waiting to be a week early. He's out. I'm out. Are you out too? And does that mean Jordan Spieth wins?
Yeah, I mean, I adhere to that as well, but it turned, I might have been a year early because I've been playing it. It's just not working. I'll say this. If he's 3%,
I have him at I have him right now at 2.6%.
Then I'll if that's the case, I'll be over. There's no doubt, because I'll just bank and I'll go in firmly expecting him to play. I don't think anything from a stats perspective points to a reason to roster him, to be honest. The opportunity cost is there. There's plenty of other guys cheaper and above him that I would rather have. But I still think that there's an outcome where he pays you off. And when you're talking ownership like that, you don't need that much. So I'm not going to have, I probably have 10% of him. And if that gives me 2.5x on the field, I can live with that, and I'll sacrifice 10% of my lineups if I have to.
Yeah, I think it depends on how many lineups you want to play if you want to deploy a strategy like that. Like, I'm far more comfortable paying the extra $400 and going down with the Jason Day ship again, just because I know that he's still at least good, rather than allocating some shares for Day, allocating some shares for Spieth. I'd rather just play Day if I'm going to do that in my 4 of my 20 lineups and move on my way and just leave Jordan Spieth for everyone else.
I'll say this, like I said, I'm definitely gonna have some exposure, but if you're playing less lineups, or you're just like, I don't know how many times Spieth really kills you, because truth be told, if he's 3%, yeah, obviously if he goes out and wins, you're going to need him, but there's a lot of scenarios where he plays well, a lot better than he has, and he's still not a killer for you. There are not going to be that many people in your tournaments that have him, so you can survive without him, even if he has a good showing.
Yeah, like if he wins, you're probably screwed, but if he comes T5, he might be on the winning lineup, but if he comes T5, he still needs to be paired up with 2 other guys inside the top 5 and someone who wins to win this specific week. In terms of one of these giant GPPs that you could fade him, he has a good week, and you can still win.
Last block of the show, a lot to get to, and actually a fair amount of time to get to. About 8 minutes is what our producer just told us. Yes, 8 minutes. Our NBA panel is here. DK Live, Julian Edlow, and Karin Phillips of the New York Daily News.
All right, roll that Tears of Joy animation, please. And we're going to start with the big boys up top. Jules, who do you like in Tier 1?
Yeah, it's actually kind of surprising, because normally when we have one, stud that's a tier above the rest of the guys, he is left off the slate. Like when Harden was hot, we would leave him off the slate and go with the other guys behind him. But Giannis is here with the rest of the guys in his tier who aren't really on his level. Like LeBron obviously is, but with that minutes restriction, you can't trust him in 28 minutes. Joel Embiid, he's in his second game back from injury. He only averages 41 DraftKings points in a couple of games against the Cavs this year. That spread is 15 points. That could easily be a blowout. And then Jokic only averages just over 40 DraftKings points against Minnesota this season. So Giannis, I know there's some blowout potential here against New Orleans, but these are 2 top 10 fastest paced teams in the league. New Orleans is one of the worst defensive teams in the league. Giannis has scored over 50 DraftKings points in 5 consecutive outings. He has that 70, 80 DK point ceiling. I just think it's pretty easy to go with Giannis, and then you can differentiate yourself somewhere else in your lineup.
Karin, who are you taking in Tier 1?
Giannis is the sexy pick, but I would probably take Jokic as well and put him up there if you're deciding between the two. But think about everything Julian just told us. Like, I don't really like anybody in this area, and I like all these guys, as Tier 1 guys. But with the situations going on with their team, with injury, with minute restrictions, with where their teams are playing right now, if they're fighting for playoff positions, or the chance that these games could be blowouts, it makes you just want to stay away from them. So why, yes, Giannis is probably the go-ahead. I would say Jokic is that behind him, because, I love picking him all the time, the way he fills up a stat sheet. But this is not the usual top tier that we're used to, just because of all the other variables tonight.
Yeah, so, it's not the usual bunch of, guys that you might want to be picking from in this Tier 1. But who do you like the least here? Like, you said you don't particularly like anyone, but is there somebody on here that you're just like, no, definitely not, staying away from?
LeBron, and that's something I thought I'd never say in my life. Just because if we said all day, like, the Lakers are dead, I don't want anything to do with the Lakers. Stay away from LeBron. And LeBron, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, man. I love you. Like, forgive me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Where do you sit on that one, Jules?
Yeah, like I said about LeBron earlier in the show, that 64 DraftKings points that he had with that triple-double in 28 minutes is going to lure people into a trap with LeBron James. He can't do that in 28 minutes every time. Like, those numbers he put up are ridiculous. If he played 40 minutes, he probably would have had, 44 points, 15 and 15. Like, it would have been a big-time game. So, he has that in him, but you don't want to bank on that every night. So LeBron is probably going to play the fewest minutes of all 4 of these guys, so that gives me the least interest in him.
Karn, tier 2 has Damian Lillard, Ben Simmons, LaMarcus Aldridge, Julius Randle. Who do you like the most from this group?
Give me Dame, just because it's Dame time of year. And this besides last year against the Pelicans in the playoffs, but this is the time of year where that guy turns it up because, every year we think or believe that Portland's going to take it to another level in the playoffs. And while they may not, you get close to the end of the year and Dame Leonard starts to remind you why he's like the only guy who wears Adidas has shoes that look kind of cool enough for you to buy. So I'm taking Dame Leonard here tonight.
Okay, Jules, you want to go with the pride of Weber State as well?
I will go with the pride of Weber State. Look, you've got Simmons and Randle, who both have a lot of blowout potential. Randle, frankly, probably doesn't belong in this tier to begin with. And then we got that question about LaMarcus Aldridge. I think last segment, would we play him against Dallas? He only averages 27 DraftKings points in 2 games against the Mavericks this season. They were both competitive games. He got his minutes. One of them went to overtime, and he still didn't exceed value. So LaMarcus Aldridge is not a guy that I'm interested in. So it's kind of Lillard by default here. But Lillard is a play that I'm interested on the slate overall, the classic slate at 9,200 or in this tier. He just showed us that 77 DraftKings point ceiling that he had in that overtime loss to the Thunder a couple of games ago, and then he's performed well against the Clippers this season. The Clippers are a fast-paced team. They rank poorly in terms of DraftKings points allowed to point guards. They're in the bottom 5 there, so Lillard is averaging over 47 DraftKings points in his 3 contests against the Clippers this season. I think it's a pretty easy decision in this tier.
It's also probably the only game of the night that's going to be competitive. And then when you throw in the Patrick Beverly factor, who may be guarding him, that would be exciting to watch as always.
All right, guys, let's move on to tier 3. Who do you like the best here, Julian?
Yeah, so this is a different tier. This is a place where I think you can differentiate yourself if you're making multiple lineups. But in the end, I went with Lauri Markkanen here. DeMar DeRozan is in a solid spot. He kind of has to play well if we think Aldridge isn't going to play well in a close game. So you can make the argument for him. But I think Lauri Markkanen might be a little bit different of a play. We're fading the Lakers across the show, basically, and we're going to do it more here. They're terrible defensively. They let up a ton of points. They don't have much, good size defensively up front, especially with Tyson Chandler not really in the rotation. So Markkanen's cooled off lately. His game log is not going to impress you, but then when you get to the back of it, you're going to see all those huge games he was having in mid to late February and really carrying this Bulls team. And remember, no Zach LaVine. That's their go-to guy. So Markkanen becomes Chicago's next best scorer against a really bad Lakers team. I think this is the place to go in tier 3.
Pretty convincing. Karin, where do you sit on this?
I was leaning for Lauri because with LaVine out, you got a guy who can get buckets against a team that likes to give up buckets. But because of what the Spurs and their situation is tonight, I'm going to lean with DeMar DeRozan and roll with him just because I believe the Spurs need him to play good and play well tonight and produce rather than Lauri, who might just want to. So give me DeMar.
Hey, who do you like the least in this tier? Not many options. Would you like me to read them to you?
Well, Kevin Love is out.
Okay, so
he's not going to do very well.
So then you have DeRozan, you have Harris, and Markkanen.
Yeah, it's Tobias Harris by default. So,
yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you. Jules, who do you like the least?
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, Tobias Harris could be a sneaky play because Jimmy Butler's out. Maybe that gets him some extra usage, but it's him. I mean, I said off the top, I was between Markkanen and DeRozan here, and there's 3 guys, so guess what? Tobias Harris is the guy.
Wow, silly question on my part, I guess.
Yeah, ask better questions, Emerson.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. How about this one for a good question, though? Slate approved pick?
Oh, my God, wow.
Who are you rostering? It is a really good question. It's hot in here. Who are you rostering no matter what, Karin?
Dame Lillard. Just give me that guy. I just feel like a big game is coming from him. So just give me Dame Lillard tonight. Unless Patrick Beverly and he shuts him down. He has 8 points, and then I'm going to look stupid.
Okay, so you have a 1A and a 1B.
If this doesn't happen.
Yes.
But if it does happen.
I like options, okay? I like budgets and options.
Yeah, we have learned that about you. Yeah. Jules, give us one option for Slate approved pick.
Yeah, right team, wrong player. Yusuf Nurkic, $7,100 for the Portland Trail Blazers. The Clippers also are in the bottom 5 in the NBA defending centers. Nurkic only averages about 32 DK points a game against the Clippers this season, but he also has only averaged 22 minutes in those games. This is going to be one of the few competitive games tonight on this slate, so I think rostering multiple Blazers, if you want to play Lillard and Nurkic, that's fine. But Nurkic, I think he has the matchup, and he has a really high ceiling, 60, 70 DK points, and this is one of those matchups he can reach that in.
Alrighty, guys, that's a show. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Bye.